Alright, so today what we're talking about is the final project for, let's see, what is it? Mr. Bishop's ETM 110 class. Effectively, the lab that we built is a traffic light simulator. 3 timer coils connected to pilot lights cycle through each other. One timer is connected to a red light, another a green light, and another a yellow light. Now, as you might imagine, the order by which the timers in the light cycle is red, then green, then yellow. Now, we're also able to hook a motor up to this lab. We had it as a part of the circuit. It was an AC 4-pole 3-phase motor with a rated RPM of 1,765 RPM and a synchronous speed of 1,800 RPM and a slip of about 2%. This motor is connected to an Allen Bradley VFD, which we had set up to respond to the states of 3 separate instantaneous contacts, which were hooked up to 3 separate timers, which were in turn connected to 3 separate pilot lights. So what this means is that we were able to get the VFD to stop when TR1 came on, when the red light came on, because TR1 had a normally closed contact hooked up to the VFD, which controlled the stopping action. Whenever TR1's normally closed contact opened, the motor would stop because it was hooked up to terminal 1, which controls stopping action on the VFD, the Allen Bradley VFD. And the same goes for TR2 and TR3, except they were normally open contacts. They were hooked up to, TR2 was hooked up to terminal 2, which controls full speed applications, just the normal running applications. And whenever it's normally open instantaneous contact closed, power would go through and the motor would run full speed. And TR3 was hooked up to terminal 5, which we used as a digital input with a preset frequency that was around like 30 hertz or something like that. So it would go about half the normal speed. So probably like 900 RPM. I mean, I could do real math, but I'm not going to right now because I'm talking into a microphone. And that's basically how the VFD worked. It was red light. I mean, if you want to go simpler, you could just say red light controlled the stopping, green light controlled the going, and yellow light controlled the... I could say yoing, but it doesn't make sense at all, so I'm just going to say slowing instead. Anyways, I'll get into more of the circuit analysis now. Maybe you'll learn a little bit more out of that, maybe you won't. I sometimes have a very odd way of explaining things, as you can probably tell by now. So I'll cut over to that. Right here, it's kind of hard to do this with a pencil and just looking at a camera. We've got TR1 and we've got PL1 right there next to it. And TR2 and TR3, little contacts right here on rung, what is it? That's rung 8. So we've got TR3 and TR2 instantaneous, normally closed contacts up here. What that means is that when TR2 is off, when TR3 is off, TR1 and PL1 turn on at the same time. Now, TR1 has a contact down here, which after a set amount of time will close. It's a non-delay, normally open timing contact. It'll close, activating TR2 and PL2. So over a split amount of time that we can't perceive, these two things are on. And they turn off because this contact right here, this normally closed instantaneous TR2 contact, opens, cutting power to this, but this is on. TR3 isn't on, so that doesn't matter. at least not right now. Then you might ask, well, doesn't this open? Well, it does, which is why we have this down here. This is a latching contact hooked up to TR2. And what that means is that once TR2 comes on, this comes on, allowing power to flow through and keep it on. So, after TR2 has completed its set amount of time, we come down to this, which is a little bit more complicated than everything else. What we have right here is a normally open TR2 contact. After that's done, it closes, letting power to go through. So, here's what else we have. We've got TR3 coming on, and we got PL3 coming on, right after this is done. We've got this latching contact, like we had up here, for TR3 on rung 13. Why do we have this? Why not just this? Is that a question that comes to your mind? Why doesn't it work that way? Well, I'll tell you. Unfortunately, we had some problems in the constructor. If this little thing right here wasn't in the circuit, it wouldn't do what it was supposed to do. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you why. TR3, see this right here? TR1 won't come on if TR3 is on. So TR3, when it's done timing, has to cut itself out. Or else TR1 won't come back on. It won't cycle like it's supposed to. So once TR3 were to open, cuts power, meaning that it's all good here. It's got its own timing contact right here. It cuts power. The yellow light turns off. And TR1 turns back on, meaning the cycle repeats. And it does this every single time it turns on. Now for the VFD, which we have right over here. Part of the diagram right here. As you can see, we have TR1 stopped, which means red light stop. Instantaneous, normally closed contact, hooked up to terminal 1 on the Allen-Bradley variable frequency drive. TR2 at run at terminal 2 on the Allen-Bradley frequency drive, which means when TR2 turns on, because TR1 is done timing, we get the motor to run down here. Now, when TR3 turns on, because TR2 is finished timing, it goes slow. The motor goes slower. And it's at input 5 on the Allen-Bradley variable frequency drive. Now, if any of that made sense to you, I'm glad it did, because it barely made sense to me as I was going over it. But that's life. Deal with it.
Alrighty, since we're done with that, I suppose I'll leave you with some videos of it in operation. I won't commentate on any of it. It doesn't seem like it's necessary, just to prove that I actually did this instead of that I faked it, because I did do it. You saw it, Mr. Bishop. You did. I know you did.
Because you energize the photo, this guy opens, he energizes one direction starts on. That's where you got an issue. This one's not. Because